And then you got me pregnant. And you talked me into an abortion.
Damn,
I'm not finished. And before I was even healed, you came to me and told me it was over. And then you were going to marry her?
All right, Zatima fans. Now, I know I've been pretty much pretty controversial lately with my opinions about last week's episode of the show, mainly when it comes to Fatima and her accusations, jumping to conclusions about Zach. And, you know, I've had people who agree with me, and I've had other people who feel like I misinterpreted, you know, Zach's reasoning for, you know, the proposal, or Fatima bringing Ian into, you know, the restaurant during their date, and so on and so forth. But I'm not here to debate that. I'm just here to make a point that somebody actually, you know, DM me asking, you know, Jeremy, I'm surprised that you and a few other commentators haven't really talked about it, but what about Fatima's abortion that she had with Ian's, you know, baby? Do you think it's fair that she hasn't told Zach? And, you know, what are your thoughts on that? And that's a very good question. And I honestly never even thought to discuss it. You know, I did do a video about, wait, Fatima had an abortion? Because that's a big deal. And then in the video, I talked about how it made the scene she had with Andy in season 4 Sisters even more, you know, meaningful, when she's like, you know, I wanted to be the one to have his babies, you know? So looking at her past with that, you know, carrying a lover's child, but, you know, she was convinced to not have it, really means a lot to her, and it did a lot of damage. My opinion, here's the thing, you know me, I've been single for a long time, so I can't really speak from experience with this, but here's my thing. You know, I made it, you know, clear. I'm Christian, been since I was, you know, very young, and first learning about the Bible and whatnot, and, you know, certain rules and regulations, aka sins, and, you know, how to, you know, avoid certain things that the Bible frowns upon. I know for me, growing up, I was like, you know, I would love to meet a woman and marry a woman who's a virgin. And my thing is, I'm saving myself for marriage. You know, growing up, yeah, because the Bible said so. As I got older, I decided, you know what? I think that I'm going to start doing it for me. Yes, it is the quote unquote Christian thing to do, to wait till marriage. But I think, you know, as you get older and you start to form your own opinions of things, it's like, yeah, I think it's just something I want to do. Not because it's the biblical thing to do, but I just feel like I think it's a personal choice, because not every Christian waits until marriage to have sex. Doesn't make them any less of a Christian. I can't throw stones. I just know my own personal choice is to wait. Now again, as I got older, you start to change in terms of like, what are your checklist for the perfect partner? And I use the word perfect loosely because nobody's perfect. Originally, yeah, I would definitely want to marry a woman who has never had sex. As I got older and you realize the reality of the situation, especially in the day and age we live in with social media, online dating apps, and other things like that, a lot of, you know, hookups, the hookup culture, that's what we live in. It's rather unlikely, not impossible, but it's rather unlikely, especially as you get older, because I'm 31 now, to find a woman who's Christian and is still a virgin. Again, not impossible, but the numbers are lower. Same with pre-made family. I personally don't want to marry, you know, someone or be in a relationship with someone who already has kids. But again, as you get older, you realize that, you know, number of single Christian virgins, no kids, starts to dwindle. And then you have to not compromise your standards, but look over your standards and look at the options. And then, I don't want to say compromise, but you kind of got to tweak them. Now, when it comes to abortion, You just heard my checklist. Abortion has never came up really. But as a man, one thing I'm not going to do is tell a woman what she should and shouldn't do with her body. So yeah, I'm not really, you can't say Jeremy's either pro-life or pro-choice. All I'm saying is I'm a man. I myself am not physically capable of producing a child, so I'm not going to judge a woman who has had an abortion. So if I were in a position where Zach is now and I was dating a quote-unquote Fatima, would it be a quote-unquote requirement for her to tell me she had an abortion? Yes and no. Here's why. Number one, I think personally that's something you keep close to your chest if you're in that situation, especially because it's a sensitive subject. I think that Fatima will tell Zach when the time is right, because, you know, going back to Sisters, like Zach giving Fatima the password to his phone and, you know, being open and honest about certain things, and Fatima's like, you know what, I'm not ready, you're not ready to learn all that. And, you know, hell, even when she, you know, interrogates him about how many women have you slept with, how many women, you know, this and that, and Zach, you know, quickly retorts, how about you? And then she's like, I'm going to bed. There's a lot of things that she doesn't want to tell Zach yet because she's not ready, and that's fair. I think, and again, this is just me speaking from if I was in Zach's position, okay? So if you don't agree, you don't agree. Leave your comments below, please. Let's have a open, mature discussion about this. I think telling Zach, or excuse me, let's say if you were dating someone and, you know, you want, like, let's say I want kids and, you know, I'm talking to my girl about it. I think telling someone you had an abortion is important if, again, being a man, I don't know how all the women body parts work. So let's say if a woman has an abortion and as a result of that, that has created a situation where it could be difficult for her to have kids at all. I think that needs to be discussed. I think in that situation, I would like to know. You know, that's just me. Now, there could be some fear as well as judgment, because maybe a woman decided to have an abortion because she wasn't ready to have a kid. The dad walked out on them, or, you know, situations occur. You know, maybe she was convinced not to have the child, and there's a sense of guilt. And let's say, you know, being a Christian myself, what if the woman I'm seeing, because, you know, like I would think she's Christian, you know, that kind of thing. And she's like, man, you know, Jeremy's a great guy, but he's Christian like I am. And, you know, I grew up in a Christian household, and I know there are some Christians who frown upon abortion. So what if I told him I had an abortion and he dumps me, that kind of thing. And that's a shame. I feel so bad. And I would hate to carry myself in a way that's so seemingly judgmental, where my partner wouldn't want to tell me something out of fear of me leaving them. I would appreciate the honesty and we would have a serious discussion about it, but that's her truth, you know? So I think for me, I'm not ridiculing, because people are like, you know, you talk about her not telling Zach about meeting with Ian and whatnot. I think there's a major difference between, hey, I went to meet my ex behind your back, versus in the past, I had an abortion when he convinced me to do so. And then after that, he dumped me. It goes back to like the whole Belinda thing, where Fatima's like, Zach, I don't like being blindsided by your past. But the thing is, yeah, you and Belinda, that was before you even met me. So I think the same rules kind of apply here, where the difference between the whole abortion thing with Ian, that was long before Zach came into the picture. Now, the thing with her meeting with Ian behind Zach's back while they were together, while they saw Ian in person, while, you know, they rejected the dinner offer, and then Ian went went out of his own way to, you know, kind of blindside Fatima at her job and whatnot. And then Zach called asking what's wrong, and she didn't say anything. And then in the bathroom, when he gave her multiple opportunities, she kind of like avoided the question before finally being called out on it. So yeah, that's the whole thing. I'm like, Fatima, that won't cool. But the abortion thing, in her own time, yeah, I feel like, you know, she will tell. I'm not saying she should tell. I'm saying that, yeah, in her own time, yeah, I think she'll, you know, tell the story. But that's just my thoughts on that. Because there's a major difference between the way Fatima's past comes back to her versus Zach, where with Zach, it's like every time this dude leaves the house, or hell, even when his past comes knocking on the front door. But with Fatima, yeah, this is her, like, quote unquote, one little secret. But there's a time and place for that kind of thing. So I think when maybe they're ready to talk kids, then, I mean, it's been like said a few times, like when Zach, like, wait, are you pregnant? Like, what's going on? I think that's when he first got the house and he was like, visualizing what it could be. And I think Fatima's like, it's like, schools, are there good schools in the area? Daycare? Wait, are you pregnant? That kind of stuff. So yeah, I think they'll have that talk when the time is right. But that's pretty much my thoughts. I didn't mean to, give my own life story and religion and stuff like that. But I felt like it was appropriate to kind of break down my stance on it, because I think not just abortion, but, when two people are, dating and whatnot, there are sensitive topics. Like, what if one person was sexually abused by a family member, and that's why, they feel a certain way about how you touch them? Or what if one family member, both, like, let's say one of their parents walked down on them at a, young age, and as a result, they have a fear of, doing the same thing at some point in their own, like, relationship. Hell, you can even have someone who is the victim of, like, abusive parents, or or something like that, or they saw, like, oh, my dad, he would always beat up on my mom, and, like, that's one reason I'm afraid to get close to people, because even though I said I would never be him, I am his offspring. So there's a darkness I feel inside me, or I feel like, what if I get married and then I turn into him? That little things like that. So I can't sit up here and say, hey, she should say something, like, tell somebody up front. I mean, there are multiple rabbit holes that this conversation can go down about what should be presented up front versus what shouldn't. Telling someone you have kids, telling someone you have, look, I don't know what the correct terminology is. I remember when it was quote unquote STD, but I think that I heard that they changed it to a different acronym. I am unaware of what it is, so I'm just going to say STD. If anyone wants to educate me on what the quote unquote politically correct terminology is, basically, if you have some sort of disease, that kind of thing, on top of that, on Tyler Perry's the question of, should you tell somebody if you're transgender or not while you're dating? Again, like I said, there are multiple rabbit holes, and I think abortion is one of them. It's one of those things where you got to decide if that is something you feel your partner tells you up front. Will there be a sense of betrayal, or will there be a sense of understanding? That's why I said, let's have a mature conversation in the comment section below. And yeah, I think Fatima will tell Zach in her own time. And yeah, that's all I got for you. So like and subscribe. Follow me on social media. Links are in the description below. Hit the bell icon and select all. That way you don't miss out whenever I post content on the channel. And I'll catch you in the next one.